There are two different ways to draw floors in Revit. One is to draw what I call a composite floor, which is a floor that has all the materials already built into it. The other way is to draw a structural floor, which just has structural materials built into the floor, and then come back at a later time and put the floor finish on top of it. The floor finish could be concrete or wood or tile, or anything that may be on the surface of the floor. I prefer using the second method because that allows us to draw in the floor structure first and then come back later and refine the way that our finished materials is designed throughout our building. First, go to the Architecture tab and select on Floor. Then under Properties, click on the Type Selector list, and let's begin by finding the concrete 4-inch floor. And this will be the main structural floor that we place here on the first floor of our building. Select the Pick Walls tool. This will allow us to select the walls that go around the perimeter of our building, and that will be our new boundary for where our floor will be located. Put a check mark next to Extend into Wall Core. Zoom in to the intersections of column grid E and 2, and we'll start our floor at this intersection. Now the reason why we picked Extend into Wall Core, if this was not picked, and we could only select the outside and inside faces of the wall. I selected on Extend in the Wall Core. This means that the floor can then be supported by the wall that's underneath it. Click once we get to the midpoint of this wall. Click again on the midpoint of this wall. Continue to click, making sure that we have one line drawn right after another. Click the top wall now, the wall coming down the side. Then once we reach one of the curtain walls, let's skip over these curtain walls and then come over to the walls over here. Curtain walls don't really have a structural part. The outside line for our floor needs to come just to the outside edge of the curtain wall. So in order to accomplish that, we'll need to draw in something later. Go over here to the outside, click again, click, select on this wall and click again. Now the next thing I like to do is draw around the perimeter here using a line tool. So I'll select where we have the endpoint of this line here, come out to the outside of this brick layer that I have, and straight across. We can see in this case that my line is pulled away a little bit from this column, and that's because this column is actually made up of a different material than you have for the column over here. So I'll just bring this concrete floor all the way out here to the outside and may need adjustment layer. Click, come back up, then click at that point. Now at some point we'll need to come back in here and make this a corner. Revit won't like the fact that we have an overlapping line, so we'll need to get rid of this portion over on the left. I'll zoom back out, come back up to the curtain wall on the upper part of the building. Look on the endpoint, click out here, come straight across. I'm going to need to get rid of this extra little line. You can select on the Trim Extend the Corner tool. Click on one of the lines, click on the other line to bring those to a corner. Now you should always select on the side that you want to keep. Meaning if I zoom into another corner where we have two lines that kind of overlap, we want to select on the side we want to keep, and then the side that it needs to come to an intersection at. And by selecting on this side and this side, it'll know that it needs to come to a corner right there at the corner as opposed to going the opposite direction. Whenever we think that we have those all complete, we can come up here to the big green check mark. If for some reason we don't get this message, would you like the walls to go up to this floor's level to attach to its bottom? And instead we get a different message, that different message will probably be an error message saying that your lines aren't actually connecting. You'll need to zoom in and find where those lines you've drawn for the perimeter before are not connecting, then bring us to a corner. Once you get to this message, tell this message no. You do not want the walls that go up to the floor to then get cut off. You want to remove any overlapping materials between the floors and the walls. And in this case, the answer to the question will be yes. We do want the floors to be sitting on top of the walls on the outside. If we look at our floor in a 3D view, zoom in, we do have a floor now going around the perimeter of our first floor. The next thing I'd like to do is place a floor up on the second floor area. To accomplish that, we'll need to go to our second floor. Go into the project browser, go to second floor, double click on second floor. Under the Architecture tab, we'll select on floor. Now underneath the type selector list, instead of the concrete 4-inch, let's select this 3-inch lightweight concrete on 2-inch metal deck. What I'd like to do now is just draw a floor around these two office areas. Once again, with the Pick Walls tool selected, click on one of the walls, click on the next wall, click on the outside face of this wall up here. We notice in this case, it's actually dropping it down to the inside. What I'd like to do is click on the little double arrows here, which will flip it to the other structural part of the wall. Come over here to the outside, click. Now I can see that I have this extra line that comes up here and goes beyond where this line is at. And we really need to bring all these to a corner. And the same thing is true actually around this edge as well. So once again, we need to use the trim extend the corner tool. Click, click, and click again. Any place where they're not coming to an intersection, we need to click on it so that these lines will come to an intersection. When that's complete, click on the big green check mark. It'll ask, would you like the walls that go up to this floor's level to attach to its bottom? Tell it no, and then tell it yes. We can look at it in 3D, and there we can see that we have a floor now sitting in this location, as well as the floor down on my first floor area. To place our finished floor materials inside of our model, we first need to go to the Architecture tab and select on Floor. Then underneath Properties on the Type Selector list, click and select half-inch tile floor. I want the entire floor to have a half-inch tile material on top of it. Make sure that the height offset from level is a half an inch. This means that it should be a half an inch above where the structural floor would be located at. You can clear the checkbox next to Extend into Wall Core. It won't bring this finished material directly into most of the walls. Select on the Pick Walls tool and start to pick the interior side of each of these walls. Now, if we really wanted to finish this off correctly, get appropriate quantities out of it, you could select on the inside of these walls and slowly build in the area where we have finished flooring materials inside of each of these spaces. But for this project, I just want to go all the way around the perimeter of where our ability is at. When we select on line, what it means is instead of selecting on the wall, click on a spot, come over, click on another spot. An example of that would be every time we reach a location where we have columns. You may want to go around the columns with our finished material. You may even want to go past each of our curtain walls with the finished material, go around columns. We select the endpoint at each one of these lines. We would like to have our flooring material. Once you get to one of these major walls, select the Pick Walls tool if you wanted to, pick the wall. What I'll do is just continue to draw these lines, go around the columns, around the outside faces of each of these walls. We'll eventually come up to the big green check mark in order to finish off the floor that we were drawing around the building. There are certain locations where you may decide to go through doorways instead of just going right through where wall locations are at, and that's okay. For this example, we're not going to be cutting sections through certain parts of the building, and because of that, I'd have no problem in actually taking our flooring material through some of these wall locations. Don't draw individual floors for every single room if you don't need to. As much as possible, try to keep your process quick. Whenever you get back to your starting location again, you may need to use your trim extend the corner tool in order to bring these points to intersections. Make sure that you don't have overlapping lines. Whenever you think that you may be done, you can click on the big green check mark. And if you don't get a warning message saying that you have two spots that aren't coming to a point, then you'll get this dialog box saying, would you like the walls to go up to this first level to attach to its bottom? Just tell us no. We can then go to a 3D view and then see the floor has been put into place here. Right now I'm seeing something which looks a little bit odd to me. That's the fact that I can see some color as well as some concrete. Both the concrete and the finished flooring look like they're actually at the same level, and that's incorrect. So we'll probably need to come back and make an adjustment to one of these floors so that they're at slightly different elevations. Before we do that, let's put a finished floor material up here on our second level. Once again, go to our project browser, go to the second floor, draw in the area where we want to have our floor material. Go to Floor. I'm going to use the Pick Walls tool again. I don't need to extend that into the walls core. Pick around the perimeter, just those areas where I want my flooring material to be. If it flips it to the wrong side, you can always click on the little elbow arrows here to flip it over to the correct side. Select on the line tool, click each of these points. I'll come straight down again. Come over. I'll go right through that wall. It's okay by me. I'll come down and then I'll just use my trim extend the corner tool to bring these to a point. Click on the green check mark. I can see that I have two spots where it's overlapping lines and I'm doing this little orange mark. I'll just click on continue. It tells me that I need to fix something up in this corner, but it needs to a point. Click on the green check mark. I don't want to bring these walls up to that floor's level, so I'm just saying no to that. Now, if we look at this in a 3D view, the flooring materials up on the second floor have the same issue. The concrete is up at the same level as the finished floor. So to fix this after the fact, go to a floor plan view, first floor copy one, select on this section symbol, which is going through my building. Now drag it over to this part of my building. This will allow me to see through multiple floors at once. Then I'll right click on the section symbol, go to view. I should be able to see where my floors are located at. And if I highlight over this floor, it looks like it's a ½ an inch too high. This is my structural floor, and this should be down at this level. So to make an adjustment to its height, underneath properties, I'll change the height offset from being a ½ an inch to 0. The structural floor has now dropped itself down. I'll do the same thing down below, select on this floor, change it to 0, and now this floor has dropped itself down. Go back to the 3D view, see that we have our finished floor materials throughout the entire building, and we can no longer see the structural floor. Now we've adjusted its height by a ½ an inch. It's now underneath where our finished floor materials are located. The topsy what done just allows us to tweak which type of ceiling can we working for and say if I'm going. Now which of three that topsy what in this different I got up to structure of this back to for them. And we probably is the whole types in your list in a facility and full authority. Like you come to one of this floor to up to for the list to the video customers and calling on one job practice away. World stick of that friction symbol should give you still up down edit head. When we clear on the one thing I want to top here and exhaust the floor and then change the properties of words to clear on full type. This type, the reason long we can't clear and switch man the door clerk set up down the gender. Oh, actually, you know. So it's doable kind this one sphere upon planet is bearish for one knowledge. Then quick move there. Then click fairly bone. While now I can say that those shit of first will ram you out with time soon shoot. It's a structure is that it's one is tough that try to go people knows long shit. No, I know that this floor that should be floor I choose it so much change the one foot to be formal issues. The world has through like out states better upon. Tip has been chatted upon. Natural cool, but I don't do it about chat upon. There's some opportunity to like buy so you will that to use font curry. I wish to take on this time kind of money. And don't click on don't chat. Yeah, does a small launch can't kind full up. It's really a big less and content. The click on the period when I period on someone. And then that I had a single product which just made with conquered then it's for just interface. You can also have what titans theaters. People offer to get the type select and one of those. But it's just the one choice Florence serenity. You can do the type and people can do it. You like to like to say the plus 4 therapies and work a bit different as a maturity. You know, more can client at that clip and all along is the picture of eyes selecting. You know, so much. Which thought didn't know which job, which to be jiggling after. Bro. And so the trip the top to the union sisters talk to be seen. And the front with the battle in the game was choose the battle with the fit. If a bomb was looking at I will. So what I'm limiting you want to the answer like as fix up and see lots of good bit just there. The sing up to the more you joy go the one and only thorough. And the close was my just turn she learned it parallel. But well, I'm not a compressing fellow. Very nervous from me as going on which gets from me. Prostituted and without public assent, hard for force this year. I took on the parallels. Then what's different finishing in the criminal all over? There's a concrete fallen fellow. Is she just the structural terrible thriller? Just a average total, it's just a essence. Well high, the chemistry of the structure came with this symbol. You can get a driving someone's using because it's a positive view. What's going on? So the two was so shining and then all the country around them. So my feet ups. The answer went up. The structure have to see out. benegando feel being functional associated with feel. Och det här kan vara ett drama cinemas, alltså structured på det before, and get out information to be all talking. We want you know, the version of the ad solving of the Putramajan certificate one. And then from this project, this I need to do on a force it, so international type, it shows them all the through. So relative is so put field to, like use the finishing to the anti like just clinical journey. Men du inte får man göra det tog kommer man inte upp. Då slutar det blir cringe där. Well, this is all about information from me for some just kept more of the ups and I think the years of being teen and not just for I do. So we're about the generations på i your city. You prefer the blir kanske för att man har sig av plus. Så att du måste få en högt de lyckas där. Så we'll just have a full man said of the one but the gun and the enemy said feel that back is current. The woman starts joining from the career more is seen on the types of work you need. We still have but can't quite feel much for the connection is one design happen. A boundary before can be edited even after it's been drawn and the green check mark has been checked. They can see this if we quickly draw a floor and they try to edit its boundary after selecting on the green check mark. If you go to the Architecture tab on the ribbon and select on Floor, we can then go to the Rectangle tool, which will allow us to draw a rectangular floor. Click once, then click again just somewhere out in this area. Then click on the big green check mark. When you do, it will create the floor that's a rectangular shape. If we click off of it, then the floor is then officially drawn. If we want to edit the boundary of this floor now, we can. The next thing we need to do is just select from the floor itself, then come up to Edit Boundary. When you do, you'll see those lines that we drew originally. From here, we can draw in different shapes in order to make the floor the shape that we need it to be. Just as an example, if we select on the Circle command, then draw a circle here in the middle of the floor. It'll then create a hole right in the middle of the floor. Another thing that we could do is draw a rectangular shape in this area by selecting on the Line tool, clicking somewhere along this line, come up and come over. Then, if we use the Trim Extend the Corner tool, we can eliminate this extra material over here to the side. By doing these steps, we'll now have a floor that goes around this area in this direction, comes across, and then has a hole right in the middle of the floor. So click on the big green check mark and look at it in 3D. We can now see that we have a floor surface that has a hole right in the middle of it. So to edit the outside boundary of a floor after it's been drawn, simply select on the floor, go to Edit Boundary, draw in the shape that you like the floor to be, then click on the green check mark to finish off your floor. There are 4 different ways to make a copy of your floor. The first way is just to use the copy command in a plan view. Select on the outside edge of your floor, come up to the copy command, pick a base point, then make a copy over in the direction that you want to have a copy of your floor. After clicking, you'll then place that floor in its new location. If you have to escape here a couple times on the keyboard, you'll then see that you have your copy as well as your original. The second way that you can make a copy is inside of an elevation view. So if I scroll to my elevation views under the project browser, double click on South, I can then select on the floor, click on Copy, click one of your levels, to make a copy up to the next level. Now, if for some reason your floor does not want to move from one level to the next level when you use the copy command, I found that sometimes when constrained as a check mark next to it, that's the reason why. If you clear the checkbox next to constrain, then you should be able to copy your floor from one level up to the next level. Let's take a look at it in a 3D view. And now you'll see that you have one floor directly over the top of another floor. The third way that you can make a copy is to copy it up by levels. Right now, this project only has 2 levels in it, so we're going to need to create a few more levels so we can copy these floor plans up to. To create these extra levels, we need to be in an elevation view. So let's go to our South elevation view again by just double clicking on South under the project browser. Select your level 2, then come over to the copy command. Make sure that the multiple has a check mark next to it. Click level 1, then click your level 2, then click your new level 30, and let's create a couple more levels going on up. The next thing we can do is select on one of our floors, come up to copy, which is over the word clipboard. Now this is different from Revit's normal copy command. Copy a clipboard is the Windows copy command. So if we select on copy the clipboard, select on the word paste, then select on aligned to selected levels. From here we can choose which levels we'd like to make a copy of this floor up to. In this case, I'm going to click on level 3, hold down my shift key on the keyboard, and then click on level 6. This will allow me to select everything between level 3 and level 6. And I click on OK to that. You now have floors going all the way from first level to level 6. If we go back to our 3D view, we'll be able to see that. We can see our floors going all the way on up our building. And this will work with the walls, the doors, the windows, obviously your floors, any of the objects inside of Revit. Now there is one more technique that you can use. We can use the copy command on different groups of items. But in this instance, since all we have drawn is floors, make a group out of this floor. After selecting on an object, create group. And I'll just name this floor and click on OK. And now I'd like to go back to my south elevation view. And we can see that that's highlighted here in the south elevation view. Come back here to copy the clipboard, paste, align selected levels just like before. This time select between level 2, because right now we don't have a floor on level 2, all the way up to level 6 by holding down the shift key and clicking on level 6, then clicking on OK. Selecting the default 3D view icon, we can now see that we have those floors going all the way on up. Now there is a difference between a floor that's been grouped and a floor that has not been grouped. If we select on the top floor of those floors that were not grouped, and come over to Edit Boundary, we can then delete this inner circle by just selecting on the circle and then hitting the delete key on the keyboard. And clicking on the big green check mark, now this floor that we highlighted on no longer has a hole in the floor, but all the other floors underneath it still do. What if you had a condition where you wanted that same change to propagate through each and every floor? That's where you'll group your floors. When we have our group of the floors, if we select on the group there, we can then come up to Edit Group. Select on the floor, Edit Boundary. Selecting on the circle and then hitting the delete key on the keyboard. Go to the big green check mark and click on the big green check mark again, which will finish editing the group itself. All the floors underneath this floor have now automatically updated. And this would work as well if you had walls, doors, or windows in any of those floors that you've grouped. That same change will populate across all the different groups. There's actually a variety of ways that you can copy your floors from one spot to another. Use the copy command. You could use copy the clipboard. Or you can make a group out of your floors, copy their floors to each of the locations that they need to be at. Then if you make an adjustment to any of the floors inside of a group, all the other floors inside of the same type of group will update to reflect the exact same change.